Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is your host Thomas Tyree from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this would be episode 172 for you guys today. Of course, this episode is going to be coming out on all four of our platforms: our Instagram account, our Facebook account, our YouTube account, and our Apple Podcast account. So let's go ahead and dive into the first segment of the episode this week. I'll be sharing my biggest storylines and my biggest headlines of the NFL Week 2 regular season. So we're 2 weeks down in the NFL regular season already. Week 2 had a lot of headlines that will be covering in this segment. Let's start off with probably one of the biggest headlines of Week 2. And truthfully, that was the New Orleans Saints dominating the Dallas Cowboys 44-19. I was starstruck and very shocked watching the Saints steamroll and dominate the Dallas Cowboys on the road this previous Sunday for Week 2 of the NFL regular season. I mean, Klint Kubiak is becoming one hell of an offensive coordinator quickly, and he gave his old boss, Mike Zimmer, a lesson. If you guys follow the Minnesota Vikings, Mike Zimmer, a few years ago, obviously was their head coach, but Klint Kubiak was his offensive coordinator. So you had his offense going against Mike Zimmerman's defense, and his offense kicked his old boss's defense's ass on Sunday. And I was mad about it. But that offense was all hits, no misses. They were unstoppable. Alvin Kamara had a total of 4 touchdowns, had a total of 180 yards per scrimmage, passing and rushing in that ball game. Derek Carr played very well to put the Saints in position to win that ball game, put up 44 points on the Dallas Cowboys defense. And this game, I got to give to the Saints. I mean, Dennis Allen had this team well prepared on both sides of the ball. They had a mentality, we're going to punch you in the mouth, and there's not a damn thing you're going to do about it. They were the more physical team, the more dominant team. They wanted it more. They won the game also in the trenches. Offensive line was bulldozing our defensive front and limited our pass rush to making big plays. And their defensive pass rush played very well and dominated our offensive line. So the game was won in the trenches for them. They were a more dominant team, and their offensive players, Derek Carr and Alvin Kamara, got them going. Klint Kubiak called one hell of a game offensively, and the Saints just dominated us. My Dallas Cowboys had no answer for it. Where was the team that I raved about last week when I was talking about Week 1 performances, where the Dallas Cowboys blew the roof off of the Cleveland Browns in the opener on the road, played well defensively? The same defense didn't show up this week against the Cleveland Browns, so I'm very disappointed in how the Cowboys played this week. Really wish for a better outcome, a different outcome. If we would have took a loss, I would have taken it. But man, this was very disappointing. But there is an honorable mention here. I am going to name a lot of teams in this segment, but there is a player that I want to mention, give his flowers for. It's Aiden Hutchinson, who had a monster performance in losing effort against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this Sunday. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson, a defensive pass rush for the Detroit Lions, had one hell of a game. 4.5 sacks on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I really thought he had 5 sacks, but they counted it as 4.5 sacks. But still, regardless, Aiden Hutchinson dominated the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive line. Was getting home to Baker Mayfield. I think Aiden Hutchinson could really have a really spectacular year for the Detroit Lions. And if you want to compare him to the other best pass rushers in the NFL, like a Michael Parsons and Nick Bosa, T.J. Watt, Myles Garrett, Aiden Hutchinson right now, I mean, it's only 2 weeks, but he would win Defensive Player of the Year right now based off of the production that he's done so far. So he's an early candidate to win Defensive Player of the Year right now because he's playing very well in the first 2 weeks of the NFL season. We're going to see if he does win it, but man, he's having a good start to the 2024 NFL season. Now, the next game I'm going to talk about, it's the Raiders pulling off that huge upset victory on the road against the Baltimore Ravens, winning that ball game 26-23. That was a huge win for the Las Vegas Raiders coming into town to Baltimore and took over. I mean, Gardner Minshew had a good performance, had a game-winning drive that helped the Raiders pick up a huge road win against the Baltimore Ravens, a Baltimore Ravens team that was just in the AFC Championship last year. I mean, looking at the stats, Davante Adams still proved that he still got it and still proved that he's one of the best route runners in the National Football League, piled up 9 catches for 110 yards. And Brock Bowers, their rookie tight end from Georgia, also had a big day, 9 catches for 98 yards. Ravens got to figure out something fast because John Harbaugh, this stat I'm about to read you guys is crazy. John Harbaugh is now blowing the most double-digit leads in the fourth quarter by coaches since 1991 with 9 lead blown. And Lamar Jackson is the first 0-2 quarterback, 0-2 MVP quarterback to start this season since 2002 when Kurt Warner did it after coming off of his MVP year. So the Baltimore Ravens got to figure out things quickly. Their offensive line has played very badly. I don't think Todd Monken really knows how to really use Derrick Henry yet. And in the offensive scheme, which is a problem because when healthy, Derrick Henry is just like Christian McCaffrey in the conversation for being one of the best running backs in the National Football League. And you still don't know how to use him. You could have the RPO game of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry going crazy in that Baltimore Ravens offense. But it all starts with the 5 men that are responsible for pass blocking and run blocking, and that's the offensive line. They played very pitiful in the first 2 games to start off the season against the Chiefs and the Raiders. Now, let's talk about the other Harbaugh brother, and that's Jim Harbaugh, who has made his return back to the NFL. Obviously spent time away from the NFL after his hiatus with the San Francisco 49ers a decade ago, or nearly a decade ago. Went to college football, won a national championship with the Michigan Wolverines last year. Back in the NFL, has the Los Angeles Chargers back in winning form. They're 2-0 after the 2 first games of the NFL regular season. And from what I've seen, Jim Harbaugh is giving this LA team new life. I mean, Justin Herbert looks like he's happy to finally play for a head coach. He's had his stint of bad coaches since he's been drafted in 2020. But it seems like Jim Harbaugh has installed some confidence in this Chargers team. And the running game is going wild. It's like Greg Roman style in Baltimore all over again. It's like Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh style in San Francisco all over again. Running the football, being a run first offense to set up the pass. And J.K. Dobbins, man, he looks healthy. He looks good. He's running hard, running strong. I haven't seen him look like this in a very long time. Now, we know he's been going through so many injuries over the years in Baltimore since he's been drafted in 2020, second-round pick from Ohio State. We all know the running back that he was in college. We all know the running back that he was with the Baltimore Ravens when healthy. So it is good to see J.K. Dobbins rolling and Greg Roman's offense once again looking good. And I hope he continues this because he's off to a great start for the 2024 season, I should say, so far in the first 2 weeks. Let's talk about the game of the week, in my opinion, and that was the Chiefs defeating the Cincinnati Bengals 26-25. Now, the Chiefs have won 8 straight games dating back to the playoffs, so the Chiefs are on an 8-game winning streak. It's always a fun matchup between 2 elite quarterbacks, the best of the best in the league, between Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. I love both of them. Love watching both of their styles play. When they play against each other, it's always competitive games against each other. Now, the Chiefs were truly outplayed by the Bengals in this ball game. It really should have been the Bengals that won this game, but it was Patrick Mahomes that got the ball and drove down the field and helped this team have a game-winning drive and deliver for the Kansas City Chiefs when it mattered most. They extend their win streak to 8, and Burrowhead no longer exists because Patrick Mahomes has been taking care of business against Joe Burrow in their last 2 meetings in Arrowhead at Kansas City. But the story that came out of this is the unfortunate news of Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco is now set to miss 6 to 8 weeks with a fibula injury, and Isaiah Pacheco is a talented running back. We know that. He had his coming out party last year, and I thought he was going to be on pace to have a really good 2024 NFL regular season. And it hurts because he's a good player, somebody that the Chiefs depended on in their offense for the first 2 games. So it's going to be interesting to see how Andy Reid moves forward with this running game style of the running backs that they do have, or if they bring in a veteran running back. A first name that comes to my mind, a former player of Kansas City, is Kareem Hunt. But we'll see what they do at the running back position. But Isaiah Pacheco, man, that hurts. And it hurts my fantasy team too. I mean, man, he was putting up points for me as I start off our fantasy league this year, our 4th fantasy season on the hop, as I start off 2-0 this year. Really going to miss seeing Isaiah Pacheco in my lineup for the next 6 to 8 weeks. So, big blow to the Kansas City Chiefs. But Final game I'll talk about is that Monday Night Football game last night between the Atlanta Falcons and the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, we saw the Atlanta Falcons pick up a big win on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles, 22-21, and that Monday Night Football game that had a wild ending to it. I mean, the Eagles really should have won that game last night. They had a 97% chance of winning that game in the fourth quarter, and they blew it. I mean, let's talk about the questionable play call at the end. You're up in the ball game. The Atlanta Falcons used their third and final timeout on a 3rd and 3 call. You can run the ball down in the red zone, but instead, Kellen Moore calls a pass play, and Saquon Barkley drops the ball, which stops the clock. You have to settle for a field goal, and then you let Kirk Cousins go down the field on the road, basically 2 to 3 plays later, or maybe 4, and have a game-winning drive against this Philadelphia Eagles team. Kirk Cousins showed up big. And when it mattered most in this Monday Night Football game, that's the reason why the Atlanta Falcons paid him all that money, and that's the reason why he's there to help the Falcons compete and be there in them type of game situations for him to possibly have game-winning drives and help the Atlanta Falcons pick up wins in the win column. He did that last night. Prime Kirk Cousins in prime time picking up a win on Monday Night Football against Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles. Whew. That was a moment. And we all know the ending when Jalen Hurts did get a chance to go back down the field and put his team in position to have a game-winning field goal, trailing by 1 point. He threw the ball, threw a pick, really didn't look at the rest of his read progressions, just looked at Davante Adams down the field, threw the pick, and it was picked off by Jessie Bates, and that was the ball game. So it was a good week 2. I cannot wait to see what week 3 has in store for us in the NFL season.